You know, sometimes you hear about these murder plots that are just so meticulously planned, but then they're undone by the simplest thing imaginable. In this case, it was basic physics. We're going to dive into the Meerut cement drum murder, a truly wild case where the evidence was, well, just too heavy to hide.
So, the whole thing starts with something you'd probably just walk right past. Police are at a home in Meerut, India, and there it is, a big blue plastic drum. Nothing special, right? Except this one was holding a truly gruesome secret.
And the second the officers tried to move it, they knew. They knew something was seriously wrong. I mean, this thing was filled to the absolute brim with cement. It was impossibly heavy. You just don't do that unless you're trying to hide something and hide it forever.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? What on earth was inside? What's so horrific that you need to entomb it in a block of concrete? Well, the answer to that question, it uncovers a story of just cold, calculated brutality.
All right, so to really get what was going on here, we have to back up a little bit and look at how this whole plan came together. Because this was not some crime of passion. Oh no. This was a cold, calculated murder hatched by two people who shared a pretty deadly secret. Okay, so let's meet our main players. First, you've got Muskan Rastogi. She's the victim's wife. And then there's Sahil Shukla, who was Muskan's lover. The two of them, they were the architects behind this whole thing. And their plan? It was just chillingly methodical. It played out in 5 absolutely horrific steps. First, they gave the victim, Saurabh, sleeping pills to incapacitate him. Once he was out, they killed him. But it didn't stop there. They then dismembered the body, put the remains into that blue drum, and finally, poured in the cement, thinking that would be the end of it.
You know, believe it or not, the cement wasn't their first idea. At first, they were thinking they'd just cover their remains with mud and plant a little tree over it. Yeah, but they pretty quickly figured out that wasn't going to cut it, especially with the smell. So they switched to cement. And then, the story gets even weirder. There are reports that Sahil, who is apparently into black magic, actually performs some kind of ritual with the victim's remains.
So, for all this careful, gruesome planning, the whole thing was about to fall apart. And it all came down to one single mistake. A fatal error that would bring the whole thing crashing down.
And you can really see where things went wrong when you look at the dates. The murder happens around March 3rd or 4th, but the police don't find the body until March 18th. That's 2 whole weeks. For 2 weeks, that drum is just sitting in the house. So the question is, what happened during that time?
And here's the fatal flaw, the big mistake. The cement, it worked too well. The drum was so incredibly heavy, they literally couldn't move it. They couldn't lift it, couldn't drag it. They even tried hiring some laborers to help, but nope, it was a complete dead weight. Their perfect plan to hide the evidence turned into a concrete anchor, trapping the evidence right there in their own home.
So imagine that. You're trapped. The proof of your crime is sitting right there, and you can't get rid of it. The pressure must have been immense, and eventually, Muskan just cracked. She confessed everything to her parents. And then, in a heartbreaking twist, it was her own family that made the call to the police. They're the ones who brought this whole thing into the light.
Okay, so once the confession is out there and the body is found, the police investigation just kicks into overdrive. Now it's all about building a rock-solid, airtight case against Muskan and Sahil.
And man, did they find a lot of evidence. You're talking forensic samples from the scene, digital records from their phones, I mean, everything. They even got eyewitness accounts from neighbors and, get this, from the laborers they tried to hire to move the drum. It all got bundled into this huge 1,000-page charge sheet against them.
So what were Muskan and Sahil doing during those 2 weeks? Trying to live like nothing happened. They even went on a trip up to the mountains. Just incredible. But that little vacation didn't last long. They were arrested right after they got back, which put a pretty quick end to their strange attempt to carry on as normal.
So, with their arrest, we enter the next phase of this whole story, the legal battle. We're going to look at the really serious charges they're up against, and also let's just say, an unexpected development that came out while they were in custody.
And the charges they're facing are no joke. We're talking Section 302 of the Indian Penal Code, which is for murder. That can mean the death penalty. On top of that, there's Section 120B for criminal conspiracy, basically for planning it together. And of course, Section 201 for making evidence disappear, by filling a drum with cement.
Okay, remember that unexpected twist I mentioned? Here it is. While she's in jail, awaiting trial for this incredibly brutal murder, Muskan has apparently said she wants to study law. Yeah, and her goal? To defend herself in court someday. It's just a stunning thing to hear, considering the situation she's in.
You know, a crime like this, it's never just about the people directly involved, is it? It has these ripple effects that spread out and touch everyone, the community, and especially the families.
And for Muskan's family, it's just been a total nightmare. I mean, don't forget, they're the ones who did the right thing and called the police. But now they're dealing with this intense backlash and stigma from their own community. It's gotten so bad that they're apparently planning to just sell their house and leave town completely just to try and escape the shadow of what their daughter did.
So, as this whole thing heads to trial, it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? It's a story about betrayal, sure, but it's also a story about a plan undone by something as simple as weight. It really makes you wonder, what does justice even look like in a case like this? And how does a family, or a whole city for that matter, begin to heal from something so horrific, a secret that was meant to be buried forever?